Happy Good Friday. Dan back with Brown Liquor Review number 6. Rolling through these things. Got a fun one for you here today. One that is simple to get, easy to drink, for an affordable price. And we like these things. This is no other than Old Granddad, Bottled in Bond. I'll talk a little bit more about what Bottled in Bond means in another review, because I plan on doing plenty of Bottled in Bond reviews, because to be honest, they're one of my favorite bourbons by far, for all those reasons that I just said. These things are fun to sit and smell and to taste, but on a Friday night like it is tonight, it's fun to sometimes switch this glass out for just a good old tumbler and have at it. Give yourself a 2-finger pour. You've had a long week. So I just wanted to review this one for you real quick, because it's one of my favorite easy to get ones. And we'll go from there. Bourbon is one of those liquors where you can find gems for a very reasonable price. It's one of the things that makes it so much fun. So just like in my earlier reviews where I was looking at some harder to get whiskeys, they're fun because you have to hunt them down. These ones are fun in a different way because they're everywhere, but you have to find the diamonds in the rough. And bourbon is like that, and that's why I like it so much. So I'll do this one, and there's so many different Bottled in Bonds out there. And I'll try to wade through them and tell you which ones I like the best. And it'll be fun. So we'll start out with Old Granddad. As you can see, I buy this by the half gallon because it's more cost effective, and this one's taken a beating. But one thing I wanted to show you real quick was whenever I buy these Bottled in Bonds, I love to put them in a decanter because one, it aerates it, and two, it's not nice to have this big, huge bottle around, but it is nice to have one of these. Okay, some important things about a decanter is numero uno. You want glass, and if you do get crystal, you have to get lead-free crystal, unless you're planning on just putting the bourbon or the scotch or whatever in it for just a couple of hours and then putting it back in the bottle. After a while, the lead can seep into the whiskey, especially since there's so much alcohol in a whiskey. That tends to happen a little bit quicker than something like water or something like that. That's what I've read. That's the internet's opinion. I take lead poisoning seriously. I think you should too. So that's my public service announcement. This is something that can make somewhat of a cheap, ordinary, but delicious whiskey into something very cool, very special to your guest to show this. Okay, so that's my spiel about decanters. I love them. I think they're really great. I put all my Bottled in Bonds in them. Okay, so with that said, let's just go straight into the nose. This is an extremely smell good whiskey. It's a very sweet whiskey. It's a very nutty bourbon. In fact, it's one of the most unique smelling bourbons I've ever smelled. It's very sweet. So I get nutter butter, like the sweet candied kind of peanut butter with a lot of sugar in it. Also on the nose you get juicy fruit gum, which is good. You get cookie dough, and cookie dough means lots of butter, and there's a lot of butter in there. And so, it's sweet, it's kind of one-dimensional, but it's really good in that one dimension. Okay? The taste, I think putting it in the decanter really helps it get mellowed out a little bit. this is a young whiskey. It's at least 4 years old to be bottled in bond, but it's a little bit rough around the edges, so a little bit of air kind of helps it. But it follows the nose. It's very nutty. I get milk chocolate, lots of vanilla, dark brown sugar, toffee, sugar that's been cooked down, evaporated milk, and wafers or nougat. It is one of my favorites. It's very one-dimensional, like I said. It's like a candy bar. It's really good. It's got good mouthfeel. It's syrupy, silky, oily. And, a half a gallon was like $35. So how can you beat that? I think a fifth is like 20. So if you can get a half a gallon of it, I think that would be a good investment. How easy is it to get? You can pretty much go into any store and get this one, any liquor store. And that is very appealing to me. As someone who, I enjoy the hunt, but I also enjoy having those good old standby whiskeys that hey, I need a bottle of this. It's not going to be impossible to replace. Like my prior reviews on Pappy and all that, or the Old Rip Van Winkles, those most likely aren't going to be replaced. My next review is on Sazerac 18. It won't be replaced unless I get lucky in fall again. So it's very reassuring to always have this. It's consistent. It's always there. It's really good. Now, because of that, it affects the way I grade. Just because of the accessibility to this whiskey, I give it a 92. You might say, Dan, you are an idiot. You gave Old Rip Van Winkle 12 and 10, and lost profit scores less than that. Okay, well, I can get those whenever I want. And that really means something to me, and I think it should mean something to you as a consumer, that a company can produce something so consistent at a quality level for an accessible price. It's pretty awesome. Let's say that it was impossible to get. Pretend that this was an Old Rip Van Winkle product or a Buffalo Trace antique collection. It would be lower. It would be like an 86 or an 87, but it's not. Go grab you a bottle. Get you a big one if you can. And just sit back and enjoy it. So thank you for joining me again. I appreciate all your support. If you find these to be entertaining or just educational, or makes you decide that, hey, I'd like to try that whiskey, that's kind of my intent, and that's what I'm hoping. I'm just Joe Schmo telling you that I like this whiskey. I recommend it, so go buy it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good evening.